Tonight, ballot removal. Legal threats based on the 14th Amendment aim to disqualify former President Trump from another term.
There could be a lawsuit that he's actually ineligible.
Plus, passport backlog.
The perfect storm of people wanting to travel, the downturn during COVID, and the hiring freezes.
The work to get applications back on track. And Fargo bound. The North Dakota community embracing an influx of Afghan and Ukrainian refugees.
I'm very grateful for the outpouring of support and love.
All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. A constitutional amendment with the power to potentially derail the former president's third White House bid. Good evening from the nation's capital. I'm John Jessup. Jenna Browder has the evening off. Well, another storm brewing tonight among the mounting legal trouble facing Donald Trump. On top of the 91 criminal indictments in 4 separate cases on both the federal and state levels, now a new legal challenge to his candidacy on the constitutional level. A growing number of bipartisan voices believe the 14th Amendment may lay the groundwork to remove the former president from the 2024 ballot because of his role in the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. CBN White House correspondent Abigail Robertson joins us now with more specifics. Abigail.
Well, John, the new challenges for Donald Trump include lawsuits emerging in multiple states, such as Arizona, New Hampshire, and Michigan, that seek to keep the GOP frontrunner off 2024 ballots. The legal and constitutional claim being that Trump is ineligible for office after engaging in an insurrection against the United States.
Our country needs to have a different direction and a new leader.
Asa Hutchinson tells CBN News while he supported Trump twice before, he now believes Trump is ineligible to even run this time around.
Things changed after January 6th and leading up to it, whenever he refused to recognize that we ought to transfer power in a peaceful fashion under our democracy. And to me, this was not consistent with our Constitution.
He specifically points to Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which states an elected official cannot assume office if they have taken an oath to support the Constitution of the United States, then engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the U.S., or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof.
The voters in a very difficult position. They'll be voting in Iowa, New Hampshire, and even on Super Tuesday without knowing the outcome of the cases. And it sets it up where if it's not determined early, later on he could be the nominee and there could be a lawsuit that he's actually ineligible.
Democrats like Virginia Senator Tim Kaine agree this makes a strong case against Trump's holding office.
In my view, the attack on the Capitol that day was designed for a particular purpose at a particular moment, and that was to disrupt the peaceful transfer of power as is laid out in the Constitution. So I think there is a powerful argument to be made.
2 law professors from the Federalist Society, a key conservative legal group, studied this subject for more than a year. Their research concluded the Civil War-era amendment can still be enforced today, stating it disqualifies former President Donald Trump and potentially many others because of their participation in the attempted overthrow of the 2020 presidential election.
I think they're wrong for a number of reasons.
Hans von Spakovsky from the Heritage Foundation strongly disagrees.
Donald Trump has never been convicted. He's never even been charged with insurrection or rebellion. Trying to suddenly claim that he's guilty of insurrection or rebellion in those circumstances just doesn't work.
Spakovsky also believes upcoming lawsuits to keep Trump off state ballots will not work, citing prior unsuccessful efforts using Section 3 to disqualify other elected officials involved in January 6th, such as Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene and Senator Ron Johnson.
We just had a federal court in Florida throw out a lawsuit that was attempting to do the same thing with Donald Trump, saying that voters don't have standing. They don't have the ability to even bring such a claim.
In response to claims he's ineligible to run, Trump says almost all legal scholars claim that the 14th Amendment has no relative legal basis for the 2024 presidential election and calls this another trick used to seal another election.
So, Abigail, the Wall Street Journal published an opinion piece, and it's titled "The 14th Amendment Trump Panic." They lay out some arguments against the push to use the amendment against Trump. Can you tell us more about the points that they made?
Well, John, the gist of the article is that they don't believe that under the Constitution that January 6th was an insurrection or rebellion under the constitutional terms of those words. They believe it was a riot, and they also point out something that Hans told me, and that's Jack Smith hasn't charged Trump with insurrection under the Constitution. He has charged him with conspiracy to overturn the election. So basically, they do not think that the 14th Amendment clause can be used to disqualify Trump.
Drilling down on the fine points there, CBN White House correspondent Abigail Robertson. Thank you so much, Abby. Well, from the White House to the Capitol, Senate lawmakers returning to Washington after their August recess. Minority Leader Mitch McConnell continues to be dogged by health concerns after freezing up at a press conference last week. In a letter released today, his doctor notes no evidence of Parkinson's, adding that he did not suffer from a seizure or stroke. McConnell briefly addressed concerns today on the Senate floor.
I assure you, August was a busy and productive month for me and my staff back in the Commonwealth.
It's still unclear what exactly is ailing the 81-year-old who has a very busy schedule to manage along with other senators now that Congress is back in session. Among the top agenda items, finding a deal to fund the government. The clock is ticking to avoid a shutdown. Funding is set to run out on September 30th. If a deal can't be found, federal agencies will be out of money by October 1st. Well, Nathan Gonzalez is editor and publisher of Inside Elections and a Faith Nation contributor. Nathan, so these concerns about Senator Mitch McConnell and his health, they're overshadowing the busy Senate calendar and what they have on their agenda. Do you see any scenario whatsoever where the senator might step down? And if he were to do that, who do you think would take his place?
Well, we have to consider it. And I think two things can be true at the same time, that he has kept a very busy schedule. I know this from talking to folks in Kentucky, but that he had another serious episode. Anyone who watched that footage, it's scary. According to state law, if there is a vacancy or if he steps down, then the governor, who happens to be a Democrat, is supposed to submit 3 names of people of the same party as the outgoing senator, and then the legislature would choose. Now, right now, there's a Democratic governor, and that Democratic governor is up for re-election. So that adds another twist into this. And Governor Andy Beshear has also indicated that he might not think that law about having to appoint someone for the same party is even constitutional or will uphold in a court. So there are a lot of moving parts here. But we have to at least entertain the fact that the possibility that McConnell does not serve the remainder of his term.
You know, I'm not sure that doctor's note did any help as far as alleviating concerns. Well, we just heard Abigail's reporting at the top of the show. Do you think the 14th Amendment is a viable option that might be used to keep former President Donald Trump off the 2024 ballot?
Well, I'll leave the specifics to the legal scholars, but we have to be open-minded about possibilities. And what's interesting about the 14th Amendment is that it's going to originate at the state level, right, with state elections officials or lawsuits coming up from the states. And so I think ultimately, if it progresses, it might have to be decided by the Supreme Court. And it doesn't say that, according to my reading of the Constitution, it doesn't say that the president has to be convicted of specific crimes. But in that court, a decision has to be made whether he violated that oath to the Constitution. One thing that's interesting in New Hampshire, the person bringing up this 14th Amendment is actually the 2020 Republican U.S. Senate nominee. His name is Corky Messner. So this is not just Democrats trying to push Trump off the ballot. There are Republicans beyond Governor Hutchinson who are concerned about Trump's eligibility to run and serve another term.
All right, Nathan Gonzalez with Inside Elections. We always appreciate your time and your political insights. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thanks, John.
Well, the impeachment trial of Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton is underway on charges of corruption and bribery. Since Paxton is a Republican, this is one of those rare instances where a political party seeks to hold one of its own accountable, with a GOP-controlled state Senate bearing the responsibility of deciding Paxton's fate. The Republican-led House voted to impeach Paxton back in May based on claims from former senior staffers that the AG used his power to help a wealthy donor in exchange for favors. The 31 Lone Star State senators who will serve as jury members swore on the Sam Houston Bible and asked for God's guidance.
And Father, again, we just ask just for your guidance, your direction, and we just pray that when all this is over, that all of us will walk away knowing in your eyes that we did the right thing.
Paxton built a national reputation supporting conservative causes and trying to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Former President Donald Trump supports the three-term attorney general, writing on social media, quote, "Free Ken Paxton." Paxton calls the impeachment a politically motivated sham and says he expects to be acquitted. Well, from holiday holdups to snags for short-term missions trips, travel plans in limbo, the headache of trying to get to foreign destinations, next on Faith Nation. And welcome back. Hope everyone had an excellent holiday weekend. With Labor Day behind us, the 2023 summer travel season is officially in the record books, and it was a busy one. According to the Transportation Security Administration, more than 227 million people have passed through the airport security since Memorial Day. That is a new TSA record, and a slowdown is not expected anytime soon.
We were already ahead of 2019, last year's volumes, which was out ahead of 2019 volumes, and this year it will be record-breaking volumes as well.
Millions also hit the road this holiday weekend. That's despite high gas prices. The national average for a gallon of gas hit $3.81 over the weekend. Well, if you are traveling out of the country, you'll more than ever want to make sure your passport is up to date. Stories of ruined plans are echoing across America due to a backlog of passport applications. The post-pandemic travel surge has created a bureaucratic logjam. But as Gary Lane reports, the government is working hard to get things back on track.
With a pandemic emergency over, millions of Americans are booking travel outside the country and applying for passports. Delayed processing times, however, are forcing many to cancel or delay their travel plans.
It's pretty bad. I mean, I've got friends, I've even had a family member, that sent in their passport renewal application, for example, in the spring, and it got to be midsummer and they still hadn't heard anything.
That includes Miranda Richter, who planned to take her family on a June trip to Italy and Croatia. Although she applied for their passports 3 months before, a rejected photo prevented her from receiving the passports in time, forcing her to cancel.
Just complete sadness and disappointment. I realized that I am just one of hundreds of people who are in this situation.
So why the backlog? Virginia Senator Mark Warner serves on the Finance Committee overseeing customs and international trade. He explains everything changed when the COVID emergency ended in May. Americans wanted to travel, and new passport and renewal applications skyrocketed from a low of 11 million during the pandemic to 25 million this year. That rush meant wait times went from about 8 weeks to 13. Before COVID, travelers wanting an expedited passport could get one within 2 to 4 weeks. Now, the wait time is up to 9 weeks.
So the perfect storm of people wanting to travel, the downturn during COVID, and the hiring freezes that didn't allow new people to be brought on has created a real challenge.
State Department employees are working weekends and nights to ease the strain, processing 400,000 applications per week. They're even holding summer passport fairs, including one in Austin, Texas, which reached capacity in minutes. So what else needs to be done to get those passport processing times back down to previous levels? Warner says more employees are needed to work the phones, and he urges people to be patient. Processing times are expected to improve by early 2024.
By around Christmas time, they'll have a couple of things happen. We've gotten through the backlog. There will be a new online system where you could renew at least your passport online.
And that could mean shorter wait times. Also, people will be allowed to apply at passport offices without making an appointment. As for those short-term mission trips planned by churches and Christian organizations for the summer months, in a statement to CBN News, the Southern Baptist International Mission Board said, quote, Thankfully, due to processes which allow plenty of time for travel-related necessities, we've not seen a major impact on short or long-term mission endeavors related to our organization. In other words, try to plan further ahead. In the meantime, check the expiration date on your passport. And whether you're renewing or applying for the first time, allow at least 3 months, not weeks, for processing before that planned trip outside the USA. Gary Lane, CBN News.
Some good advice. Thanks, Gary. A safe haven in the Peace Garden State. How and why one Midwestern destination is opening its arms to war-torn refugees. After this. War and devastation have ravaged places like Afghanistan and Ukraine. Looking to escape, refugees from those countries are finding an unlikely home in North Dakota. CBN's Mark Martin traveled to the city of Fargo to find out how communities are welcoming those who have fled the horrors of war.
August 2021, the United States pulls remaining troops from Afghanistan, resulting in chaos, plus the deaths of 13 American service members and around 170 Afghan civilians. It also strands U.S. allies in a hostile country ruled by the Taliban. CBN News met one of those allies living as a refugee in Fargo, North Dakota. For safety, Abdul wants to remain anonymous. Serving as an interpreter for the U.S. military, his first attempts to evacuate Kabul came up short.
I came back home, so the family told me just stay home, don't go outside, because the neighbors and the people in the area, they know where you've been working and who you've been working. We don't feel about yourself, like about your life and your security.
Eventually, the U.S. military found a flight for him at another airport. Staying in Afghanistan could have cost him his life.
We're hearing every day like the Taliban or the people who running the government right now, they killing the Afghan forces whenever they find about them, like especially the commandos and Afghan special forces. They could do same thing with me or even with my family.
His family, unfortunately, did not make it out.
Actually, yeah, it was too hard for me. Even I couldn't say them goodbye or give them a hug. So it was pretty hard for me to leave those people who I love them or they love me, like my family.
After spending a few weeks in the Middle East, Abdul ended up in the U.S., where he says North Dakota offered the best opportunity.
It was super amazing for me. When I came to the airport here, that was the winter time. Everywhere was snow. Those people from the community, they are pretty good people. They told me like a best welcome to North Dakota, Fargo.
The Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service helped make it possible.
I remember the first Afghan family that arrived in 2021. A husband who had already been here for a period of time welcomed his family, I believe, of 5. And when he and his wife embraced after having been separated for a significant amount of time, it brought tears to my eyes and my colleagues' eyes. In fact, one of my staffers turned to me and nudged me and said, "This is why we do this work."
Hanaher helped form the North Dakota office of Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service in March of 2021. Since that time, they've helped around 500 refugees. While Hanaher has seen some resistance, he adds overall the community is very welcoming.
I'm very grateful for the outpouring of support and love from our community. There are always detractors. There are those who fear the unknown or simply have a different thought process around how they feel about these issues.
Other refugees now calling North Dakota their home escaped Russia's war on Ukraine. Sergei Listratenko, his wife Natalia, and their daughter Kira lived in the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv.
We saw burning tanks, burning cars. A lot of people died, but a lot of people, our military forces evacuated a lot of people.
The family evacuated to western Ukraine, and after 6 months, they decided Natalia and Kira should head to the U.S. Sergei stayed behind to help in the war effort. At one point, he feared never seeing his wife and daughter again.
When I moved back to Kharkiv, almost every day Russians launched rockets. It continues every day for a half a year while I was in Kharkiv. Sure, I thought that I could never see them.
7 months passed, and Sergei decided to join his family in the U.S. A friend recommended Fargo, and they settled here, preferring the colder climate, much like Ukraine. Although he was overjoyed to see them again, leaving his homeland was bittersweet.
You need to understand that I left my parents, my mom, my dad, my brother and my nephews, and they're still in Ukraine.
Government statistics show more than 400,000 Ukrainian refugees, along with approximately 100,000 from Afghanistan, have come to the United States since those major events in their countries. Both Abdul and Sergei request prayer for the many more left behind.
I want to ask for the people to pray for the people of Afghanistan. Also, I wanted the international community to force on the Taliban to reopen the schools and university and let the girls and the female to go to and continue their education.
They shouldn't pray for us because we are in safe place. So they should pray about our brave warriors that defending protecting our land.
And that safe place for these refugees now is North Dakota. Mark Martin, CBN News, Fargo.
Thank you, Mark. Well, a beautiful moment gone viral. An unbelievable special connection between two brothers. Next on Faith Nation. Finally tonight, a heartwarming video is going viral. It captured the first time a 3-year-old boy named Hen met his baby brother. As soon as Hen's baby brother Max was placed in his arms, the toddler was overcome with the spirit. You can see him there singing his own rendition of the worship song, Waymaker.
He loves you, Hen.
Waymaker, miracle, progress, pop, keeper, in the darkness, my God, that is who you are.
Beautiful, and we are out of time. Thanks for joining us. See you tomorrow.